Title: Obsession Unleashed. My name is Jake, and I never thought I'd be in this situation. It all started a year ago when I met Emily. She was beautiful, charming, and seemed to have it all together. We dated for 6 months, and everything was perfect, or so I thought. It wasn't long before Emily's behavior started to change. She became possessive, constantly checking my phone and asking where I was every minute of the day. At first, I brushed it off as insecurity, but it only got worse. One night, I came home to find Emily sitting in the dark, staring at a photo of us. Her eyes were hollow, and her expression was devoid of any emotion. It sent shivers down my spine, but I tried to reassure her that everything was okay. But things escalated from there. She started showing up unannounced at my work, my gym, even my favorite coffee shop. I tried to break things off gently, but Emily wouldn't accept it. She begged, she pleaded, she threatened. I thought I could handle it on my own, but I was wrong. One night, as I lay in bed, I heard a noise outside my window. My heart raced as I crept to the window and peered out into the darkness. There, standing in the shadows, was Emily. Her face twisted into a manic grin as she whispered my name over and over again. I called the police, but by the time they arrived, she was gone. They told me there was nothing they could do unless she posed an immediate threat. But I knew she was a threat. I could feel it in every fiber of my being. I installed security cameras, changed my locks, did everything I could to keep her away. But Emily was relentless. She sent me letters, emails, even gifts, all with messages of undying love and promises to never let me go. I lived in constant fear, never knowing when she would strike next. And then, one rainy night, I heard a knock at the door. My heart froze as I peered through the peephole, and there she was, Emily, drenched and wild-eyed, clutching a knife in her hand. I called the police again, but this time it was too late. She lunged at me with a primal scream, and I barely managed to dodge out of the way. The police arrived just in time to pull her off me, but the damage was already done. As they dragged her away, Emily's eyes locked with mine one last time, filled with a mixture of love and madness. And as I stood there shaking and bleeding, I knew that this nightmare was far from over. Title: Shadows of the Past. My name is Luke, and I'm trapped in a nightmare that refuses to let me go. It all began with Rachel, a woman whose smile could light up a room and whose laughter could chase away the darkest of shadows. But beneath her radiant exterior lay a darkness I never saw coming. Our relationship started like a fairy tale, with whispered promises of forever and stolen moments of bliss. But as time went on, Rachel's insecurities began to surface. She would question my every move, her eyes filled with suspicion and doubt. I tried to reassure her, to ease her fears, but it was like trying to calm a storm with nothing but my bare hands. Rachel's jealousy consumed her, twisting our love into something unrecognizable. I knew I had to break free from her suffocating grip, but every attempt to leave only fueled her desperation. She would beg and plead, promising to change, to be better, but I knew deep down that her promises were as hollow as the void in her heart. Then came the night that shattered whatever illusions of safety I had left. I returned home to find Rachel waiting for me, her eyes vacant and empty. In her hand, she held a weapon, its presence sending a chill down my spine. Without a word, she attacked, her movements swift and precise. I fought for my life, struggling to break free from her grasp as she rained blows upon me with a strength born of desperation. Somehow I managed to escape, fleeing into the night with Rachel's chilling laughter echoing in my ears like a haunting melody. But even now, as I sit alone in the darkness, I can't shake the feeling that she's still out there, waiting for the perfect moment to strike again. I am trapped in a nightmare of my own making, haunted by the memories of Rachel and the terror she brought into my life. And as the darkness closes in around me, I can't help but wonder if I will ever truly be free from her grasp, or if her shadows will continue to haunt me for eternity. Title: Crazy Ex. My girlfriend told me the week before I went to college that I got her pregnant knowing that we were not going to date long distance. She sent me a picture of a stock photo pregnancy test she cropped that was positive. I literally just Google searched positive pregnancy tests, and it was one of the first ones. I made her come over and take another one. It was negative. As she left, the air in the room seemed to grow heavier, suffocating me with the weight of her deceit. I couldn't believe what had just transpired. The girl I had trusted with my heart had manipulated me with a cruel lie, a twisted attempt to hold on to me as I embarked on a new chapter of my life. I sat there, numb with shock and disbelief, replaying the events of the past week in my mind. How could someone I thought I knew so well stoop to such depths of deception? I felt a mixture of anger and sadness coursing through my veins, like a poison eating away at my sanity. But amidst the turmoil, a flicker of clarity emerged. I realized that her betrayal was not a reflection of my worth, but of her own insecurities and desperation. I refused to let her toxic behavior define me or dictate my future. As I packed my bags for college, I made a solemn vow to myself to never again allow anyone to manipulate or control me. I was determined to move forward with my life, leaving behind the lies and deceit of the past. College offered a fresh start, a chance to rebuild and rediscover myself away from the shadows of her deception. And with each passing day, I found solace in the knowledge that I was free from her toxic grasp, ready to embrace the opportunities that lay ahead. Years later, as I reflected on that tumultuous period of my life, I realized that her betrayal had been a blessing in disguise. It had taught me valuable lessons about trust, resilience, and the importance of standing up for myself. I had emerged from the darkness stronger and more resilient than ever before, determined to live my life on my own terms, free from the shackles of deception and manipulation. And as I looked towards the future with renewed optimism, I knew that I was finally ready to embrace the happiness and fulfillment that awaited me. Title: The Deception. My high school girlfriend told me she had cancer after our first date. She asked me not to tell anyone, and that her parents got really upset if it was mentioned, so to not talk about it with anyone. I dated her for 6 months. She turned herself anorexic to appear sickly. Once I started making friends, no one understood why I was with her and I kept her secret. Well, I finally put 2 and 2 together after she told me she was going in for chemo on a Monday. She said she wasn't going to be at school for at least a week. I caught her trying to hide from me before the first class and asked her how her chemo went. She said it went so well and that all her hair fell out, but they sewed it all together and sewed the wig to her head. As I listened to her elaborate lie about the chemo and the wig, a sinking feeling settled in the pit of my stomach. It was becoming increasingly clear that something was seriously wrong with my girlfriend, and it wasn't just a physical illness. Despite her pleading eyes and desperate attempts to maintain the facade, I couldn't ignore the mounting evidence of her deception. The pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, and I realized that her alleged cancer was nothing more than a manipulative ploy to keep me under her control. Feeling a mixture of anger, betrayal, and profound sadness, I knew that I couldn't continue to be complicit in her lies any longer. I confronted her, demanding the truth and refusing to accept any more excuses or fabrications. At first, she tried to deny it, insisting that she was telling the truth and that I was the one who couldn't understand her pain. But as I pressed her further, her facade crumbled, and the truth spilled out in a torrent of tears and admissions. She confessed to her elaborate ruse, explaining that she had concocted the cancer story as a desperate bid for attention and sympathy. She admitted to starving herself to appear sickly, to manipulating me and everyone around her in a twisted game of control. In that moment, any lingering feelings of affection or attachment I had for her vanished, replaced by a deep sense of revulsion and disgust. I realized that I had been manipulated and deceived by someone I had trusted, and I vowed to never let myself be taken advantage of in such a manner again. With a heavy heart and a newfound sense of resolve, I ended the relationship then and there, severing ties with the toxic presence that had wormed its way into my life. It wasn't easy, and the scars of her deception would linger for a long time to come. But I knew that it was the only way to reclaim my sense of self and move forward with my life.